Hi, I'm Jan McCarthy. I am guest hosting for Marie Stein for our Town Pasadena this evening. And I'm really excited. We're here with Scott, the card stacker. And I met Scott a few months ago at a dinner party, and he was telling me that he stacks cards. So I thought that was incredibly fascinating and wanted to find out more about it. And so we have Scott here. He's been building the structure here. So welcome, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So tell us first of all, tell us what you do. Do you do this in real life?
I do not do this in real life. Well, I do it in real life, but this is not my full-time job. This is actually not a job at all right now for me. But I do card stack in my free time, and it's a very time-consuming hobby. I don't get to do it as often as I would like, but
so you work for a living? I
work for a living, yes.
So what do you do when you're working for a living?
I'm an engineer in the motion picture industry.
Okay. And so how in the world did you get started with stacking cards?
Well,
how does one say, I think I'd like to stack these cards?
I think everyone at one point in their lives has picked up two cards and tried to stand them up.
Yes, yes. So we probably do this, and then they fall.
Yep. And that's indeed how I started too. I built this little triangular structures that everyone tries to do in between hands of card games with their grandparents or the parents, and that's how I used to pass the time. I liked building little tiny structures. I used to build houses very small for my Matchbox cars, and I'd play around and be creative and make little cities out of cards.
So how old were you when you first started?
When I first started, probably around 8 or 9 or so. I was very young, but I never did anything like this until probably my high school years. What really caught my eye and made me see what was possible with card stacking was when on Ripley's Believe It or Not, the television show, there was a segment featuring the world's only professional card stacker. And his name is Brian Berg, but when I saw that, I think it was in 1999, and that is when I saw what was possible with playing cards. And I knew that I'd been building them on a very small scale, but knowing how big you could go and what you could do excited me, and I kind of always had that in the back of my mind and started building bigger and bigger and acquiring more and more cards, and now I build really big things.
So how many cards do you think you have in your library right now?
I have about 5,000 to 6,000 decks, so multiply that by 54 because they all have jokers, and that's how many cards I have.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, when it gets into those large numbers, I start doing quantities of decks because individual cards, it makes a really big number that's hard to say.
Well, so when you start building, and you just started this like 1 minute before the show started, right. Do you have in mind what you want to build before you start building?
Sometimes. Usually I have an idea for a project which makes me want to spend usually a weekend or several hours of my life building something out of playing cards. And usually it's an idea. I like to sometimes replicate actual buildings.
Oh, really?
Because
okay.
Things that are familiar to people. I mean, Empire State Building is a classic example. I've built that a few times.
And you have to map all of that out, draw it out, figure out how many cards
I used to sketch things out. I still sketch them out a little bit just to get an idea of the proportions of a building, because that's the most difficult thing to get with playing cards, because basically this is your unit. You don't have half cards this is the size of every single element that goes into it. But I build other structures too that aren't modeled after real buildings, but you can build a lot of creative forms with cards that seem unbelievable, but they are things like domes and stadiums, like amphitheater type curvature of buildings, and that's really just building these basic building blocks here. These are vertical cells, what I call them. There's also a horizontal version where the card stands on its side, but then you achieve the illusion of curved surfaces by then placing cards delicately on the top edges at different angles to make the shapes that you want.
And I think it's important to note that you don't use any kind of glue or anything.
No cutting. I don't cut the cards, notch them in any way. No tape, glue, bending, folding. I never bend them. I don't cheat. It's all freestanding, gravity and friction only. That's the only things I use. And lots of cards.
Now, how many times have you started building something and you're maybe halfway there, and then you place a card wrong and it just all comes crumbling down? Does that happen?
Certainly.
Okay.
It doesn't all come crumbling down, though. Usually when I'm building, there will be a time where, I shake. I'm clumsy. I'm just as clumsy as any other person. Sometimes I find myself drinking a lot of coffee, and then my hands actually shake even more. But I found that you get a familiarity with the building material, and you start to realize that every little tremble is not going to make it come tumbling down. And actually, the more you build, the more you stack, the more sturdy they become. It sounds counterintuitive that you think, oh, it gets more precarious and
right. I would think so.
More likely to fall over. But actually, the weight of all these cards on this bottom layer here, because this is a very structurally sound method, this square sort of cell that I build, the weight on top, it's like building with real materials. Just instead of them being walls of studs and drywall, it's playing cards.
And they're sturdy. So can you even teach somebody to build?
I absolutely can. Would you like to learn?
I would.
All right. So just clear yourself a little space on this table here. And I'm going to move these
And
down.
I love all this different array of cards, and you've got all kinds. Do you have people give you cards? Is that what you get for your birthday every year?
No, I actually, you'll notice that all these cards are of the same brand, and these are actually bridge cards, which means that they're 1/4 inch narrower than poker cards. Poker cards are 3.5 inches by 2.5 inches wide, and these are 3.5 inches by 2.25 inches wide.
So are they actually better? Have you found that these
I
are
like
better cards?
the narrower card because it enables me to make better curved surfaces. Because if they're wider, then you need to make a larger radius to get. You can't angle them close to each other. It's hard to explain, but I like the slightly narrower card. It does make a difference.
Okay.
And these are cheap too. These are your typical cards that you'd find at a dollar store wrapped in cellophane. The cheaper the card, the better. You don't really want those. People used to give me the cards from casinos, the used cards from casinos. Like, oh, they throw these things away, and it's great.
Do they? I didn't know that.
Some casinos do, or they resell them, but
okay.
They don't actually work as well as you'd think, and it's because they're the glossy,
brand new
air cushion finish.
Okay, so brand new cheap El Cheapo cards. That's the best.
Yeah. These are great because they're not glossy like the like bicycle cards or something like that. Casino cards. Those have an air cushion finish and they're all glossy, so they actually are more slippery. You do notice a difference. These are just your standard matte paper finish, and they're cheap, which is good when you're buying them in large quantities. So.
Yes, considering how many cards you have, you've got quite an investment there.
Yeah. So so you're going to need a little bit of space here.
Okay.
And I'm going to teach you how to make this based. Let me move this.
Okay.
Yes, I can slide it around.
That's pretty impressive too. It didn't fall over.
Well, this just gives you a hint of how sturdy these are once you have
and
many layers.
You've built structures. What's the tallest you've ever built?
The tallest I've built is 20 feet and 6 inches roughly, so just over 20 feet tall.
And how long did that take you?
Probably about 75 hours total.
Wow.
But I didn't do it all in one sitting. I did a few hours each night after my real job, and I would go and I'd card stack for a few hours before going home, and that was really fun. That was the first time that I really had an opportunity to build that tall and to push my limits, and I know I can build taller, and I want to. So
what's the tallest that is there a record?
There is a record, and the world record right now is, I believe, 26 feet 9 and 7/16 inches, to be precise, somewhere around there. But and that's been broken a few times. It was first set in 1992 by Brian Berg, the professional card stacker, and he's broken his own record a few times since, but he's held it continuously.
Does he know about you?
I don't know.
So you haven't met him yet?
I have not met him, but I'll tell you that I really do want to break that record, and I'd like to do it this year if I can. There's just a lot of logistics that go into an attempt like that, because you need a space that's tall enough, first of all. You need a place where you can get in there. You have access to it for, a week maybe, or maybe slightly longer, depending on how much time a day I can work in there. You need a way to get up there, so you either need some sort of scaffolding or some sort of mechanical lift, like scissor lifts or something. Basically, I stopped at 20 feet on my original tower because I ran out of ladder. I only had a 16-foot ladder, and I was standing at the very, very tippy top of that. And that gets a little scary. So I stopped at 20 feet.
Okay.
But I'm only 6 feet shy of the record, and it was a breeze getting to 20 feet. So I would like to build something 40 feet tall.
Oh, wow. You're really going for it big
guns,
I
figure
huh?
if I'm going to take the time to do it, I might as well double what I've done already.
So how many cards will that take?
I would assume that would take about 2,000 decks, maybe.
So you have, and you have 5,000 cards or 5,000 decks?
I have plenty of cards to do it. So the cards aren't the issue. It's really the time, the location, and someone willing to host me, because one of the requirements for Guinness World Records is that it be in a public place, so it's people can see it, and you have witnesses, and it can be verified. So if someone steps forward with a location, I'm investigating a few things now, trying to scout out locations. But if anyone's listening and they have a location and would love to host a world record of card stacking, you can contact me on my website.
Or you can even contact us now. You can call
That's
in.
Right.
If you have a question for Scott, or if you want to contact for any reason, we do have a call-in number that is flashed on the screen, and we'd love to hear from you. So, yeah, give us a call as we watch Scott card stack here. Yeah. So, all right, my first lesson. Let's see if I can do it.
Let's do it. All right.
Yes.
Let me finish this one right here. Put a roof on it.
This is cool. This is very cool.
Oops, I just knocked it off. That's okay. So here we go.
This would be a great stress reliever.
4 cards,
right.
Okay, and you're going to take 2 of them. And you're going to set them on the table.
Okay.
Somewhere you can reach them in a minute. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So and then just take 2 other cards in your hands. You only need 4 for this. All right. So this is how you're going to do it. You're going to take. Are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Good. Me too.
Okay.
All right. So you're going to take the card in your left hand. You're going to put it on the table, just like this. And you're going to hold it kind of loosely between your forefinger and your thumb.
Okay.
And basically you should be able to wobble it back and forth. Okay, now take this one. You're going to make a T. Stack it right in front, like that, and lean it against the end of the card. Okay?
Okay.
Now now let go with your right hand, but keep holding on with your left hand.
Okay.
Grab another card.
Okay.
All right, and you're going to imagine that you're going to make a T on the end of the one you just placed.
Boy, this is kind of nerve-wracking. Uh-oh, my house of cards fell. I can start over again?
Sure. Now this, you should still be able to basically tilt this back and forth as long as this front card's leaning the T card. Yeah, there you go, perfect. So you got 3.
Okay.
And take your 4th card, and this is where you're gonna place it there, and then the card that's in your left hand.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, mine fell too. It's okay.
All right, we can get this, can't we? Okay.
Yeah, make a T.
And make another T.
Now you're going to close it off by taking the 4th card, lean it against the end, and then take the card in your left hand and tilt it in. Perfect. Now, that's good.
Okay.
So you actually need a few more cards because you're going to put a roof on this now.
Okay.
So you're going to take 2 more cards, and you're going to put one right there. Right there. Yep. Good. Okay. You can nudge them. Now you can just kind of straighten them up a little bit. Now take 2 more, because like I said, the more weight you put on top, the sturdier those cards on the bottom will become. So you're just going to put 1 more layer on top, make this really secure, and just put them perpendicular to those other ones. There you go. So now you have 2 cards down like this, 2 cards down like that. Take 8 cards, and now you have the first layer of a tower.
All right, and so this is the kind of thing that you might have built for your little cars.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
You would
something very similar to this, actually.
Okay.
And you can make little parking garages. I would put another card right here, oops, on the end, and maybe like here or something. And yeah, essentially you'd put a little car in there.
Oh, okay. All right.
or this would be a
I've got
pinwheel garage.
You've got a carport over here,
a little carport. That's right. So Now you could build this exact same plan, footprint. You could build another one on top. Now the second layer is a little bit more difficult because instead of building on a solid surface, you're building on cards.
Okay.
So this is where it becomes more important for you to just kind of trust that you don't want to drive this into the roof of the floor below. You just rest it gently because it's just one card. It's not going to do anything. And then you make a T.
Oh, that's right. I still need to hold this, don't I?
Make a T. And see if they're moving a little bit. It's okay.
Well, yours looks steadier. So let's watch.
A little steadier.
Let's watch you go. I think I'm feeling better just watching you.
All right. It takes a little bit of practice, but really anybody can do this, and it's actually a little bit easier when you're first starting out to build this on kind of a low pile carpet or something that's not slippery
really,
and glossy like
that
this.
helps having
it'll
a
definitely help
carpet
because what
versus-
happened was your card came out, slid out from underneath.
Okay.
So if you have only glossy surfaces, a good way to do that is just throw down a few cards on your surface because cards make a great building surface. So here, let's build a quick little tower here. Build some T's.
Now, do you find this to be incredibly relaxing, or is it stressful when you're doing this?
It is actually relaxing once I get into the groove.
How long does it take you to get there?
It really depends. If it's a very difficult project, if it's something pushing the boundaries of what I've done before, because I do like to experiment with new forms and sort of, because I don't use tape or glue, I like to do things like see how large of an area I can span with no support underneath of it, like building a bridge almost out of cards, or building a wall and then having a huge hole down, through it, inside of it, and apparently no support.
So you get very complicated here.
Oh yeah, I've built some really interesting structures, but this, if I'm in the groove and everything's going well, I find it very relaxing. Sometimes it can become very frustrating. So it really is a test in patience sometimes, and also it's physically taxing as well. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like I just sit here all day, but when I start building really big structures, it's really important to be in shape because you're reaching out off a ladder or you're contorting your body in some strange ways to be able to reach over these delicate things, and you can't really rest on them or anything. So I get sore if I stack for 12 hours at a time or something. But
have you really gone for 12 hours at a time stacking cards?
I have.
My goodness.
I was in the groove for most of that, so it didn't seem like 12 hours.
So almost like a trance, huh?
Yeah.
Do you
almost.
Stop to take time out for eating and drinking and all that, or you just go for it?
Sometimes. I find that actually, crazily enough, when I card stack, I don't really think about eating. My hunger drive sort of just shuts down, and I don't really know why that is, but it's good. I can stack for a long time. But I do have to remember to actually eat
So it takes
something.
a lot of concentration then.
It does.
Now, do you get nervous? So let's say that you get sponsored and you're trying to build this 40-foot structure, and you're at 38 feet. I don't want to say, but
what would happen
if something happened and the cards started falling down?
Well, cards, when you build the structures the way I build them, the cards don't just randomly decide to fall down.
All of them. They don't all fall down.
They don't all fall down. What might happen is what's kind of been happening here, and just because I've been on the first layer, it looks catastrophic, but really what would happen was that would happen on the floor that I'm working on. So I'd lose that layer, and I would just very carefully scoop off those cards, but they'd really just be just like these cards that are, a strew on this table.
So this table, all of these cards underneath would actually be very, very strong. That's what you're saying. It'd be almost like
yeah. I mean, they might
building
shake,
on this table.
and in fact, I mean, just like a real skyscraper, my 20-foot tower, it freaked me out for the first few times that I noticed it. But when you're up there 20 feet in the air and you're placing cards on this tower, or even when you're not touching the tower, you see it actually swaying a little bit and flexing with breezes and currents that are naturally in the room, just like a skyscraper flexes in a real city to go with the winds, because if it didn't, it would just snap. And so these really are sort of organic type structures where they behave like the real things.
Have you ever built anything else before? I mean, other than cards?
You mean like I'm sorry,
Well,
building.
like a building or
I've never built a building. No.
or anything that requires using a hammer or nails or
Oh yeah, I love building things and sort of tinkering, and I think that's why card stacking particularly appeals to me, is that I get to be creative and construct something, but it's also a very unique, and most people see this and are just kind of fascinated by it, and I really like that. I like inspiring people and sort of having that feeling of wonder and sort of amazement that it's possible to do that, because most people wouldn't have the patience to do this or would even want to try to do it.
Yeah,
and to bring joy. I mean, it's like an art form mixed with the construction that appeals to me. So that's really nice. And I do like sort of repetitive tasks and nice aligned geometry, and so I guess that sort of.
So if you were, now I noticed that you've got kind of maybe 3 or 4 cards here.
Yeah.
Does that help give more depth, more structure,
more support,
stability?
Definitely. And actually, if you had, instead of using one card, that was a lot of people think that this is a method to sort of cheat. It's like, well, why don't you just stand up a deck of cards on its edge? Well, that's not the point. These cards have to bear a lot of weight, because if you think of every 7 decks of cards as a pound, is approximately 1 pound
Oh, really?
of weight.
Okay.
So if you're building 20 feet tall and you've used 1,000 decks, I mean, let's do 700 decks. It's already 100 pounds of cards, and so that becomes these are bearing real stresses and real loads that typical building materials would have to bear, and so they're all under compression, and you can actually look at the cards at the bottom of a tower, the bottom of a structure, and see the way that they're flexing and the way that they're sort of absorbing that
weight.
That weight, yeah, and they really do solidify into place. This is why cards don't just randomly fly away, because they're bearing weight, and so when they're under stress or compression like that, they stay where you put them. Which is why, again, building more layers on top actually secures the lower layers and makes it less likely to fall. So now one of the things that I found most fascinating about card stacking is that I used to be really scared, that I was going to knock something over, and I didn't trust myself, and I shook more because I was so worried about not shaking and thinking that it was important, that until I found that familiarity, building more and more structures enables you to see how strong these are and give you confidence that you're really in no danger and things will not fall. In fact, in 1 second, I'm going to demonstrate that fact with this little column next to me. And that's what I would call a vertical pipe column, because it's a single card wide and it just goes up. And you can build these probably, I think the tallest one I've built is about 7 feet maybe.
So if you were to build one of these like 28 feet, that wouldn't really count for the record that you're trying to break. Does it have to be a certain width and a certain...
Oh, absolutely not. Actually, you could build it as narrow as you would like. Building one of these 28 feet would be an extremely difficult task, because that will become top heavy, and it actually would topple over. I mean, they do have a vertical limit for the width of the base. You wouldn't build...
And what is that?
I used to think that it was about 1 inch at the base, was a foot you could build in height. So these are, if you had 10 cards wide and 2.5 inches each, you could build that probably 25 feet tall. But I think that I can triple that now. I've done some experimenting, and so I would say that this tower I could take to about 7 or 8 feet before I'd really start to worry about it becoming too top heavy. Probably about every foot at the base is probably about 20 feet, 25 feet that I could build in height.
So
this 40-foot tower would probably have a footprint. A footprint about the size of this table. It would probably be about 2 feet, maybe slightly larger. But I would build it in a square shape, and just one layer after another, same repetitive geometry over and over and over again, and hopefully I would get there.
Now, do you have to be really good at math to be able to do this with the cards?
Absolutely not. But, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to try to do something. What I'm actually going to do is stick my finger.
All right, I don't know if anybody can see what he's doing, but...
I'm going to stick my finger underneath, and I'm just going to kind of pick this up.
Wow.
Demonstrate that these actually, I'm putting a very light pressure on the top and bottom of this, and I could move this around. If I put it back down, it would probably lose its structure, and some cards are starting to fall off, but there it goes. It's really...
well, that's got to be kind of the most fun part of all.
Yeah, when I first did that, that was the moment where I
freeing?
said, wow, I really can get away with... And I've bumped into towers when I've been 10 feet in the air, and it's shake. Some cards fall off the outside because those are not being braced by anything else, and it'll shake. And really? Okay, I'm still good. So I just continue building. Maybe make a few repairs here and there, but I've never had a catastrophic failure where I've been at the top of something and the whole thing just goes out. That doesn't happen.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
That would be, I think, the scariest thing in the world.
Absolutely.
So, what are you going to build for us now?
I'm just going to try to continue building while I talk. This is...
Is that hard to do?
It's a little difficult. Usually I stick cards in my mouth when I build, because I only have 2 hands and usually I need 4 cards at a time. So it takes me a little longer to reach down to the table than I normally would. But that's okay. I'll make arrangements for this.
Okay, well, we are going to go to break right now. And when we come back, we'll watch Scott stack some cards. We'll even see what it looks like with cards in your mouth. And I look forward to having us talk a little bit more when we come back. Thank you.